Good morning. My name is Chris Graham, and I am the Worship Associate today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the North Hills. Whether you've been with this church a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are, and whomever you love, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, whatever your journey has been, we welcome you. Newcomers and guests are always welcome to participate in any of our church activities. If you'd like more information about our church or Unitarian Universalism, please talk to our minister, Reverend Jane Thickstun. You can find her information on our website. Please join us for coffee hour following the service. The Zoom link will be posted in the YouTube chat at the end of the service, or you can find it in the upper right-hand corner of our webpage. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the North Hills. It is good to be together, even virtually.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. This morning, I invite you to consider a new story. This is a story of interbeing to replace the story of separation that we've lived with for so long. I'll be sharing much of the wisdom from a book that rocked my soul recently, a book called Climate, A New Story by Charles Eisenstein. The story of separation tells us we are separate selves in competition for resources, and that nature is an other, undeserving of reverence and respect, an object to dominate, control, and subjugate, just as we dehumanize other humans in order to exploit them. The term interbeing comes from the Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh and suggests that everything is connected. The story of interbeing is being offered as the necessary alternative to the story of separation. Necessary as the only way to heal our world, our planet, ourselves. It calls us to love. To love the earth and everything in it as a living, sacred being, to value in its own right, regardless of its utility to humans. Come, join me in an exploration of what it would mean to change our story. Come, let us join together in the celebration of life.
Our chalice lighting was written by Jennifer McLaughlin. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as the little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be, like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays, and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space. Our opening hymn is For the Beauty of the Earth, number 21 in the hymnal, and the words will be on the screen.
Lies. Snowboy and the Last Tree Standing. Written by Hyowen Oram and illustrated by Birgitta Sif. Published by Candlewick Press. Snowboy and his ice troopers were saving the polar bear king from the evil one-eyed emperor when Greenback Boy came up. "I know a better game than this," he said. "It's called Ka-ching, and it starts in the forest."
"Okay," said Snowboy. "I'll bring my cloak of many uses."
The forests were dark. Greenback Boy's eyes lit them like the moonlight. "Okay," said Greenback Boy. "This is the game. We cut down all the trees. Here's your axe." When nearly all the trees were gone, Snowboy thought,
"We can't breathe without trees."
and he left one standing, hidden by his cloak of many uses. "Okay," said Greenback Boy. "All the trees have gone to be made into things. In return for them, we got this. Look. Piles and piles of ka-ching! With it, we can get anything we want. But we want more, so on to the oceans." The oceans were deep and ever-moving. Greenback Boy's eyes lit them like lighthouses. "Now," he said, "we catch all the fish. Here's your net." When nearly all the fish were caught, Snowboy thought,
"What's a sea without fish?"
"A dead sea, that's what." And he let two slip free when Greenback Boy wasn't watching. "Okay," said Greenback Boy. "The fish have gone to be canned. In return, we got more ka-ching than anyone could ever dream of. With it, we can—" But in that moment, a terrible storm blew up, drowning his words. As there were no trees to snag its wings, it swept all before it, tossing the mountains of canned fish into the empty oceans, where they sank and rusted and were lost.
"Back to level nowhere," said Snowboy. "Now what?"
"No worries," said Greenback Boy. "We're still the ka-ching kings. I kept it all safe in my strong box."
"Thanks,"
said Snowboy.
"But it's no good to us now. We can't breathe ka-ching. We can't eat ka-ching. And I've got to get going."
He gathered his ice troopers and the polar bear king, and together they trudged along the wrecked land until they reached the last tree standing, saved from the storm by the cloak of many uses. Gently and lovingly, they nursed it out of its loneliness and charmed a swarm of bees to build a hive in its branches. They made a boat and went to sea and saw that the last two fish had had lots of little fish who were growing up to have little fish of their own. And when they got back to their tree, they found one of its seeds had taken root.
"Hooray!"
said Snowboy.
"Two will become many, many millions. Good work, Team Us." But wait, who's this limping along?
It was Greenback Boy, looking pale and as thin as a stick. "You were right, Snowboy," he said, sniffling. You can't eat ka-ching, and I'm starving."
"Then you're in luck," said Snowboy, showing him the beehive. "There's honey. But ask nicely, and leave some for tomorrow, or you will be hungry again."
And with that, Snowboy spread his cloak. As it was a cloak of many uses, it flew them home, where Snowboy fell happily asleep, knowing he and his team had saved the world from the fantasy of ka-ching. For now, at least.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Richards from the Lay Pastoral Care Team. During our service, we create this sacred space for sharing within our community. It is a time to share significant life passages with the congregation so that you can be held in loving care. I'll be reading the joys and sorrows this morning. We will also be placing a stone, which represents each joy or sorrow, in the sand. The sand represents our congregation, supporting our sorrows and lifting up the joys. Today we have a joy from Josh Minnick. Josh tells us, I am in my 5th week of a job support and life skills training program at the Wexford Professional Building. Everything is going really well, and I am learning a lot. My counselor, Morgan, picks me up at my apartment every Tuesday and Thursday. Everyone at my program is really awesome. This is my special joy for the week. To Josh, we say, we share in your joy. We now place one more stone in the sand for all those joys and sorrows that exist in our hearts, but which remain unspoken today. We especially think of all who continue to be affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. Please read with me the words appearing on the screen, knowing that here includes all those watching. Let us hold in our circle of caring each person here. Let us hold in our hearts those who are unable to be with us today. Let us hold in our memories those who have moved on. Let us find comfort in knowing that we are not alone.
I invite you to join me now in a spirit of prayer or meditation. So please settle in a little more comfortably and close your eyes if you wish. Allow yourself to just relax into the sacred space that you are in. And breathe. Breathe in deeply. And breathe out slowly. Breathing in compassion. And breathing out peace. These lovely words are by my colleague, John Saxon. Source of all life, all love, all hope, known by many names and in many ways. We don't know who or what you are, or even whether you can be called a who or what. Our words fail us. Our minds fail us when we ponder the enormity, diversity, complexity, wonder, and beauty of the universe and this world. And yet, we sense, more than we know, that our lives are a part of a larger life, that we are indeed connected with everyone and everything in one interdependent web of being. And that there is something, both immanent and transcendent, that nurtures and sustains our lives and life itself. Something that calls us and all life to greater wholeness and harmony. We give thanks this morning for all the gifts and blessings of life, for this day, for the beauty and wonder and mystery of life, for our families and friends, for health and work, for opportunities to learn and love and grow, for the love and support of others in times of illness and despair. But we remember, too, that others, some perhaps watching now, some in the city certainly and around the world, live in poverty, hunger, fear, illness, isolation, violence, and economic insecurity. In the silence of our hearts, may we hear the call to a wider perspective and a deeper resolve. May we live with greater compassion and care for ourselves, for others, and for creation. May we touch each other more deeply, hear each other more clearly, and see each other's joys and sorrows as our own. May we strive to be and become more than we are, more loving, more forgiving, more kind, more honest, more open, more connected, more whole. May we heal and be healed. May we face the uncertainties and tragedies of life with hope, faith, and courage, knowing that life is good and that we are not alone. And in these moments of silence, may our hearts speak silently all the prayers of our lives, our soul's greatest joys and deepest sorrows, our triumphs and failures, our regrets and fears, our disappointments and losses, our hopes and dreams. Let us pause for a few moments in silent reflection.
We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds that we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. The morning offering will be taken by your mailing a check to the church or going to the uucnh.org website, finding the link in the upper right-hand corner that says Donate, and making a contribution equivalent to what you would be putting in the plate, or more. Please join with me in the dedication of the offering. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. Today's reading is by Charles Eisenstein and is from his book, Climate, A New Story. Science is beginning to recognize what many cultures have always known. An invisible web of causality does indeed connect every place on Earth. Building a road that cuts off the natural water flow at a key site might initiate a cascade of changes: more evaporation, salinization, vegetation die-off, flooding, drought, that have far-reaching effects. We must understand that as exemplifying a general principle of interconnectedness and aliveness. Otherwise, we are left only with the logic of instrumental utilitarianism as a reason to protect nature, save the rainforest because of its value to us. But that mindset is part of the problem. We need more love, not more self-interest. We know it is wrong to exploit another person for our own gain, because another person is a full subject with her own feelings, desires, pain, and joy. If we knew that nature too were a full subject, we would stop ravaging her as well.
In 1969, the Cuyahoga River was so polluted that it actually caught fire. And the satirical songwriter Randy Newman wrote this song, Burn On, in honor of that event. When I've sung this song before at church, Ed Rockman told me that he had been a witness to the burning river when he lived there and worked in Cleveland. So this is for Ed. There's a red moon rising on the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. There's a red moon rising on the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. There's an oil barge winding down the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. There's an oil barge winding down the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. Cleveland, city of light, city of magic. Cleveland, city of light, you're calling me. Cleveland, even now I can remember, 'cause the Cuyahoga River goes smoking through my dreams. Burn on, big river, burn on. Burn on, big river, burn on. Well, the Lord can make you tumble, the Lord can make you turn, and the Lord can make you overflow. But the Lord can't make you burn. Burn on, big river, burn on. Burn on, big river, burn on.
On Christmas Eve, 1968, astronaut Bill Anders snapped a photo of the Earth as Apollo 8 orbited the moon. Those three guys were surprised to see from their eyes a planet looked like an Earthrise, a blue orb hovering over the moon's gray horizon with deep oceans and silver skies. It was our world's first glance at itself, a first chance to see a shared reality, a declared stance, and a commonality, a glimpse into our planet's mirror. And as threats drew nearer, our own urgency became clearer as we realized that we hold nothing dearer than this floating body we all call home. We've known that we're caught in the throes of climactic changes some say will just go away, while some simply pray to survive another day. For it is the obscure, the oppressed, the poor who, when the disaster is declared done, still suffer more than anyone. Climate change is the single greatest challenge of our time. Of this, you're certainly aware. It's saddening, but I cannot spare you from knowing an inconvenient fact, because it's getting the facts straight that gets us to act and not to wait. So I tell you this not to scare you, but to prepare you, to dare you to dream a different reality where, despite disparities, we all care to protect this world, this riddled blue marvel, this little true marvel, to master the verve and the nerve to see how we can serve our planet. You don't need to be a politician to make it your mission to conserve, to protect, to preserve that one and only home that is ours. To use your unique power to give next generations the planet they deserve. We are demonstrating, creating, advocating. We heed this inconvenient truth because we need to be anything but lenient with the future of our youth. And while this is a training in sustaining the future of our planet, there is no rehearsal. The time is now, because the reversal of harm and protection of a future so universal should be anything but controversial. So, Earth, pale blue dots, we will fail you not, just as we chose to go to the moon. We know it's never too soon to choose hope. We choose to do more than cope with climate change. We choose to end it. We refuse to lose. We do this and more, not because it's very easy or nice, but because it is necessary. Because with every dawn, we carry the weight of the fates of this celestial body orbiting a star. And as heavy as that weight sounded, it doesn't hold us down, but it keeps us grounded, steady, ready, because an environmental movement of this size is simply another form of an Earthrise. To see it, close your eyes, visualize that all of us in this room and outside of these walls or in these halls, all of us change makers, or in a spacecraft floating like a silver raft in space, and we see the face of a planet anew. We relish the view, we witness its round green and brilliant blue, which inspires us to ask deeply, wholly, what can we do? Open your eyes, know the future of this wise planet is right in sight, right in all of us. Trust this earth uprising, all of us bring light to exciting solutions never tried before, for it is our hope that implores us at our uncompromising core to keep rising up for an earth more than worth fighting for.
Okay. Hi, I'm live today, and you might notice our flowers are live as well, different today than they were Thursday night. And it's a bit of an honor as well as a challenge to follow Mary and Nick and Amanda Gorman. But yeah, pretty impressive, huh? Okay. So I have always loved being in nature. As a child, I spent hours at a time climbing trees I caught crickets and frogs. I explored creeks and forests, and I rode my bike all over the country roads beyond my house. To this day, there is nothing I like better than swimming in a lake or an ocean or hiking in the woods. It is in nature that I experience my best connection to a greater universe beyond my own little concerns. It is in nature that I have always felt love and mystery and even transcendence. It is in nature that I feel most connected to God. I know I'm not alone in this, and that probably many of you find inspiration from being in nature. Maybe, like me, you love it and want to protect it from the harm our species is inflicting on it. Maybe, like me, you've been concerned that we're quickly proceeding toward the end of the world as we know it, the end of perhaps our species and certainly many others gone already. I have long known that all animals have the same feelings we human animals do, and much of the same intelligence as well. I feel strongly that they have the same inherent worth and dignity that we do, and deserve the same respect. My belief in the inherent worth and dignity extends to all life, and indeed even aspects of nature we aren't used to considering alive, like rivers and mountains. It is all sacred. It is all valuable in its own right and not for its use to us. The book by Charles Eisenstein that I mentioned in our opening and that the reading is from expresses beautifully my long-held belief that nature, all of it, is sacred. It also changed my mind about how to go about saving it. My love for nature and for the other creatures we share this planet with has in recent decades taken on increased concern about climate change that is coming at an ever faster rate and that threatens it all. In 2014, I realized that it was too late to stop its progress, and I preached a sermon that acknowledged this. I mitigated the despair of this message with words from Joanna Macy and another author. And they were basically saying, since it is hopeless, we might as well dedicate our lives to love, beauty, and life. Well, that therein lies the hope. I've since worked on managing that sense of helplessness and despair that can come with honest recognition of the future our planet is facing. I've been taking and leading workshops on active hope based on the work of Joanna Macy. And as I've held out hope that climate change and the destruction it causes and will cause can at least be mitigated, I've increasingly felt that this is the most important issue of our time, an issue that trumps all others, because if we don't save our planet, nothing else will matter. We'll all be dead, and many, many other species as well. Eisenstein changed my mind about this. He calls this climate fundamentalism, and he says, this belief depends on a world story that does not recognize the intimate interconnectedness of all things. Healing on any level contributes to healing on every level. So I have long believed in the interconnectedness of all things. It is, in fact, our seventh principle. Yet, I hadn't really thought it through or felt it as deeply as Eisenstein does. He shows how the global ecological crisis far transcends what we call climate change. Instead of demoting all other environmental and social issues to secondary importance in favor of anthropogenic global warming, he says it is precisely these other issues that are the hidden drivers of climate instability. Climate change is a symptom of ecosystem degradation, a process that goes back at least 5,000 years and has reached peak intensity today. It arises from the basic relationship that has prevailed between civilization and nature. Keeping our same conceptual framework while erecting solar farms and windmills everywhere doesn't solve the bigger problem. We need a whole different kind of relationship, one that holds the planet and all of its places, ecosystems and species, sacred. Nothing less will deliver us from the environmental crisis we face. Keeping our same conceptual framework continues to promote the story of separation, which sees nature as our environment. This story values other beings based on their value to us, and it holds a belief that humans are the only fully conscious subjective agents on the planet. It has a mechanistic view of nature, and its approach to knowledge is quantitative. In contrast, the story of interbeing sees the earth as a living organism where all beings, plants and animals, soils, rivers, oceans, mountains, forests, etc., deserve respect as alive, sentient subjects and not mere things. Any damage to the integrity of the planet or the beings on it inevitably damages human beings as well. In contrast, a healthy planet will benefit the physical and spiritual health of humanity. That message I preached back in 2014 about it being too late to stop the coming of disastrous climate change, Eisenstein says, this is the mindset that can save us. It is as if giving up on the world opens us up to doing the things that will save the world. And this is a well-known spiritual principle that something has to die in order for something new to be born. Both this book and The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert, which, by the way, I highly recommend, very well-written book. And both of them show that the destructive effects of humans on the rest of the natural world predate the Industrial Revolution, and in fact, go back to our very beginnings as a species. Kolbert says, with the capacity to represent the world in signs and symbols comes the capacity to change it, which, as it happens, is also the capacity to destroy it. And Eisenstein says, anthropogenic climate derangement began long before the industrial era, primarily through deforestation and soil erosion. In the last centuries, these have reached industrial scale, while greenhouse emissions present a whole new challenge. His phrase, anthropogenic climate derangement, points to the fact that the climate change is harmful and caused by humans. He adds, whether or not we reduce emissions in the absence of ecological healing on every level, climate derangement will continue to worsen. The fact that the destruction of our planet predates the use of fossil fuels means it's not enough to undo the effects of the Industrial Revolution, even if we can. There are many causes for our current situation, but the deeper cause is that we are not treating the world as alive and sacred. The land is dying before our eyes, as it has been doing since ancient times. And we have to stop killing it. This is bigger than cutting greenhouse gas emissions. It is a reversing a relationship to soil and sea that has been part of civilization for thousands of years. Merely switching to renewable energy sources is not enough. We need to shift our attention to ecosystems, soil, and biodiversity. As Eisenstein says, we need a shift in priorities. And I quote, on the policy level, we need to shift toward protecting and healing ecosystems on every level, especially the local. On a cultural level, we need to reintegrate human life with the rest of life and bring ecological principles to bear on social healing. On the level of strategy and thought, we need to shift the narrative toward life, love, place, and participation. We must turn away from an attitude of nature as engineering object to one of humble partnership. Humble partnership. We cannot engineer our way out of the damage we have caused. We need to rethink our long-standing posture of separation from nature. Instead of extending the mindset of domination and control to new extremes in order to prolong an economy of overconsumption a few years longer. In the story of interbeing, what happens to anything happens in some way to everything. The health of all depends on the health of each, according to Eisenstein. Therefore, any ecological healing will stabilize the climate too. The same is true of social, cultural, relational, and personal healing. Everything is connected to everything else, he says. Reading this perspective opened up worlds for me. It means our work on countering white supremacy helps in ecological healing. It means our work on gun control and reproductive rights and LGBTQ plus issues helps in ecological healing. It means our work on our own personal and spiritual growth helps in ecological healing. It means we don't have to focus exclusively on climate change, but that much that we do to promote healing and justice contributes to the healing of the planet. But we do have to open our circle of love to be as inclusive as possible. As Eisenstein says, this is the revolution, to love all beings for themselves and not for their use. This is not as easy as it might sound at first. It means the transformation of our economic system, which is founded precisely on the exploitation of human beings as profit, in other words, for their use. And of course, not just human beings, but all of nature. Our economic system is founded on valuing everything only for its economic value and worth to us. Eisenstein says, a worldview that holds other beings as less sentient encourages us to think of them as mere beasts, mere vegetation, or mere dirt, undeserving of empathy. In order to reverse the course of ecocide, we need to implement a different economic system and understanding of nature. And more importantly, we need to recover our empathetic ability to feel. Therefore, the issues of environmental degradation and climate change cannot be separated from the need for social, economic, and personal healing. Not only does our economic system need to change, but our attitude towards science even. As useful as it is to us and as well as it does helping us understand nature, science has its limitations. And I quote, ecofeminists and deep ecologists have critiqued science for its propensity to render the world an object. End quote. Science also reduces reality to what it can measure. What is left out of our measurements, however, is the hard to measure and the unmeasurable, Eisenstein says, like beauty, joy, suffering, purpose, pain, sacredness, fulfillment, play, and the sight of seals on the beach, even if they were useless for any other purpose. Yet these are what make life rich. The revolution needed is all about love, which brings us back to where I started. Loving the land, loving the creatures we share it with is where we can start. Getting out in nature and connecting with that love, experiencing that sense of something larger that is sacred and not there for human use, can help us reframe our story from separation to interbeing. A focus on local ecosystems can help reduce the sense of hopelessness and despair that a global focus can cause. It can also help engage climate change deniers. And what I'm leaving out of the sermon, but is there in Eisenstein's book, are many, many examples of how we can do this shift, how we can actually transform Earth. And the basic principle is life creates the conditions for life. Meaning instead of working against nature to control it, we can work with it, understanding the ways it generates life on its own. He shows how saving the whales can affect greenhouse gas levels. It involves the capacity of intact ecosystems to absorb and store carbon. It's much more complicated, of course, but I'm not going to go into all that right here now. And he shows how regenerative agriculture, an array of techniques that rebuild soil, water, and biodiversity, can restore dried up, abused land, can sequester carbon, and can even restore dignity to those who farm. Again, a local focus is necessary as each place is unique. Eisenstein says, we have tried being reasonable. Perhaps it is time to be unreasonable. The lover does not need self-interested reasons to cherish his beloved. If we honor our inner nature lover and speak from that place, Others will hear us. Perhaps we have been speaking the wrong language, seeking a change of mind, when what we really need is a change of heart. The earth is alive and sacred. Let us shift our perspective to a new story, a story of interbeing. Let us heal the earth in all the ways we are currently doing so, with an awareness that everything we contribute to life in the spirit of love is healing. Let us recognize the interconnectedness of all and view every being as well as the whole as valuable in their own right. Let us love and protect our dear planet as we would our own child. Her life and all our lives depend on it. So may it be, and amen. And our final hymn, the words will be on the screen.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
I close our service today with these words of Charles Eisenstein. Despite all that has been lost in our progress toward a concrete world, much beauty remains. The earth is still alive. Now is the time to choose life. It is not too late. Blessed be and amen. So go in peace, but do stay for coffee hour.